System Good evening, all. I'm happy to welcome all the participants and dignitaries for this inaugural program of blended learning in higher education institutions training program organized by Center for Staff Training and Development at the BRAOU-Live University in collaboration with Commonwealth Educational Media Center, Asia, Center, New Delhi. Today's inaugural session, we have dignitaries both from Center and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor, K. Sitaram Rao Garu, and Professor Manas Ranjan Manigrahi, Senior Program Officer, Education, Center, New Delhi. I welcome you, sir. In today's program, inaugural program, we have invited dignitaries from Andhra and Telangana universities. Particularly today, in today's program, we have Professor Tumala Ramakrishna, Vice Chancellor, BRAOU-Live University, Kuppam, Andhra Pradesh. Along with him, Professor S. Mallesh, Vice Chancellor, Satavahana University, Karimnagar, Telangana State. I welcome both of you, sir. We have invited these two Vice Chancellors for this inaugural session because this program is meant for teachers working in higher education institutions, both Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. And along with them, today we have with us Professor P. Sudharani Garu, Director Academic, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University.
Recording in progress.
And also Shifan Chatterjee, Dr. Shifan Chatterjee. Today she is absent actually. She got some urgent work and she is not able to join in this inaugural session. And we have our sister, Dr. G. Lakshma Reddy Garu, with us. I welcome all of you, sir. And also, I'm very happy to today because of the inaugural function of this 10 days workshop. This is for 2 weeks actually, but 10 working days. Each week we conduct this for 5 days, and each day 2 hours the participants will spend in the classroom and in this online classroom. We have identified, people who train, experts from different faculties and different institutions across the country. And apart from that, they are going to circulate some documents and materials. I request all the participants to check your mails for day-to-day dispatches. Friends, as all of you know, blended learning is going to be the mainstream of learning methodology in India. After pandemic experience, UGC has circulated a document to all the universities in the country to adapt blended learning, to reach out the students during typical times, as well as it is going to be a main methodology of teaching and learning in India. UGC, as per UGC document, around 60% will be face-to-face mode, and 40% of teaching learning must be through online and blended. The issue here is the blended means mixing the both, not pure online or not face-to-face traditional way of teaching and learning. So UGC instructed and insisting all the universities in the country to train their teachers in blended mode of learning. In fact, we are very fortunate and we are the first runners in having this workshop for both Telangana and Andhra Pradesh in collaboration with SEMCA. After in accordance with the conceptual note of UGC, SEMCA has designed a curriculum for blended learning, and they also provided support to Dr. Ambedkar for staff training and development to train the teachers of higher education both in Telangana and Andhra. And in fact, we got 250 slots, and only 250 teachers can be accommodated in this training program. But the response is really overwhelming. That they have registered almost 485 learners, 485 teachers from Andhra Pradesh as well as Telangana. But technically, we are doing this in synchronous mode, and we are using Zoom platform. Zoom only accommodates 300 logins and 300 participants at a time. So keeping this in view, we are telecasting, webcasting entire thing in YouTube. So participants, those who are not able to join online in synchronous mode, you can see and you can watch the programs in our YouTube channel. Here, those who come first and can join in direct classroom, and remaining people, they have to see the videos later. Sir, without taking much time, I once again welcome all the participants as well as guests of the day. Today, after this inauguration, we have our first session. Every day the session will be from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Generally 1 to 1.5 hours. Lecture will be there, discussion will be there, and after that some feedback and some question answer, and sometimes hands-on experience kind of experiments, and sometimes practical oriented sessions also will be conducted in the sessions. In today's session, we have identified faculty members from Guru Nanak Dev University, University of Hyderabad, and NIPA, National Institute of Education, Planning and Administration. And for next 2 weeks, Professor B. Rajshekhar is the School of Management Studies of University of Hyderabad will be there. I think next 2 days he will be with us. He will tell us concepts of blended learning principles, and tomorrow models of planning, blended learning, and different approaches and benefits and the challenges of blended learning. Similarly, every day we will circulate, the content and the topic and the resource person's name, I request all the participants to engage, interact, and also discuss and utilize the resource persons in right now. Now, I welcome our guests who are joining from Anigrahi. In fact, Manas is the backbone to SEMCA education programs, and of course, he is also backbone to our CSTD. Now, since last 1 year, he is helping us in all the manners, and he is designing the programs and is identifying resource persons, and also he is supporting us financially. So, in the beginning, I thank SEMCA and particularly Manas Ranjan Banigrahi and Shifan Chatterjee for their support, and Director SEMCA also. I extend my warm greetings on this occasion. Now I request Manasji to give a brief message on this inaugural function. Thank you, Manas. Thank you very much for joining.
Very good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Very good afternoon to each one of Elizabeth here joined through this inaugural session in this online forum. And on behalf of SEMCA, I welcome all of you to this 10 days training on blended learning in higher education institutions of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Sitaram Rao, Professor Tumala Ramakrishna, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dravidian University, Professor Malesh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Satyabhavana University, Dr. G. Lakshma Reddy, Registrar, B.R. Ambedkar Open University, Professor Chakrapani, Director, CSTD, B.R. Ambedkar Open University, Dr. Solomon, coordinator of this program, and all dignitaries with my colleagues from Telangana and Andhra Pradesh who are teaching in higher education institutions and aspiring to implement blended learning in their teaching learning process to provide adequate and appropriate learning opportunity to all our beloved learners. I'm very much delighted to be part of this program, and thanks to Professor Chakrapani and my colleague, Dr. Shifan Chatterjee, who come up with a very nice program with a great model to implement and provide support to these higher education teachers to implement blended learning in both the states of higher education institutions. Before moving to anything talking about, I just wanted to share with you National Education Policy 2020 envisages to making education internationalization, at the same time looking for quality and equitable education, reaching to high level of GER in higher education. So it is only possible when we will provide large number of learners on board with their own requirement for their choice of education. Government of India nicely come up with blended learning implementation plan through its regulatory body, that is University Grant Commission, and encouraging to have blended learning approach in their teaching learning process to provide rigorous support to their students. I would like to share with you Ministry of Education, Government of India, encouraging higher education teachers to engage themselves to develop online course materials, which can be hosted through different online platforms, particularly Swayam and Diksha, which is the mega platform of Government of India, which dedicatedly committed towards the providing of quality learning opportunity for our students through our innovative teachers, through which I just wanted to share with you again one more point, that is the teachers need to think differently what we learned from this last 2 years of COVID pandemic period. Our learners, which they are aspiring and moving towards the learning environment, which is we tried our best to provide best learning through n number of modalities. However, the tech companies are coming to the picture, but the lacking is that providing adequate pedagogy for this mode of teaching learning process. Online and blended learning approach, it's not any kind of new in for us. However, if you will move and think starting from the ecolavious education, that nothing difference in that online and blended learning, which is we are thinking for in today's education system. Our education system highly reached, but we need to think differently and adopt different modalities, how we can be closely stand before our learners to helping them in their learning. The blended learning or online learning, it's a now in the blooming in the era where we need to adapt very quickly and move forward. And we proved systematically in last 2 years, providing best learning support to our students through different means. And which is now we are looking for that, how these effort can be more systematic, more standardized, and providing the better understanding of student and teacher relationships, not technology dominated teaching learning process. Technology only helping us in our teaching learning, but it cannot be replaced teacher-student relationships and teacher-student place anymore. I believe this training, which is planned systematically, covered various topics, starting from the understanding of blended education, blended learning theories, models, and what appropriate technology is required to reach to our learner. Not only that, how and which technology is best way to bridge between the distance of learner and teacher, and how content can be transacted for the learners through the teachers adopting or adapting adequate technology. My dear participants, my colleagues, this is still, I will say that this is kind of challenge which we need to accept. The acceptance of the changes is very, I can say that half of the problem we solve when we are accepting our challenges. I know technology definitely help us. However, we need to help technology in choosing appropriately and understanding particularly our learners' situation, how our learners can be friendly with the technologies. Henceforth, this training also covering choosing of best technologies which is easily available, easily accessible, and how this technology easily helpful for the learners particularly and teachers moving towards adopt and learning about these technologies. The blended learning, it doesn't mean only blending of the face-to-face teaching learning and online teaching learning. The blended learning, we will learn also about how pedagogy can be blended, how classroom situation can be blended with the traditional classroom with the advanced level of classrooms. Classroom, it doesn't mean only four wall of the bricks and walls and sitting together and making our more eye contacts in between. However, the pedagogy, what we are thinking right now in a connotationally, we are talking about the pedagogy. Now we are moving towards the pedagogy. So pedagogy to andragogy, andragogy to pedagogy, it's a great journey amongst us. National education policy, which is envisages that we should think in the perspective of the learner rather than the teacher. What learner required, the 21st century learners, is diversified learner, which they want, which is make them for their better life. So we need to be in a position that think that what learners' requirement and how learners' requirement can be placed systematically for their learning process. My dear friends, SEMCA, Commonwealth Planning, and BRAOU committed to provide adequate and continuous support to state of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh to implement effectively blended learning approach in teaching learning for higher education learners. My friends, I really congratulate to BRAOU and my team at SEMCA who rigorously worked together and identified best resource persons across the country. And they are, I know them personally, many of them, they are in a position where they left many remarkable milestones in their teaching, learning, and research, as well as innovations. Through these resource persons, definitely we will learn various aspects of blended learning. What are the appropriate technologies required? And what are the number of resources, particularly educational resources, can be reached in through getting access open educational resources. Friends, without taking much time, I congratulate B.R. Ambedkar Open University and Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Sitaram Rao, and Professor Chakrapani, Director, CSTD, BRAOU, who proved today and started journey helping to my colleagues of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, and it will be continue, not only just step in with this training, we will have more hands-on training, maybe face-to-face, and reaching through the blended learning, learning about blended learning. Thank you very much making me part of this inaugural ceremony. Thanks a lot. Over to Professor Chakrapani.
Thank you for giving the detailed policy perspective on mental learning, which really came up from UGC as well as new education policy of Government of India. And now, in your speech, you have explained, very detailedly about the objective as well as the importance of blended learning in India. Sir, yes, I once again thank you for supporting CSTD and BRAOU, because because of your support, we could be able to conduct different technology initiated learning training programs. And recently we have completed making of online material. That program was a grand success. And almost 2,000, more than 2,000 participants, really benefited out of that program. And now also, though you have fixed some ceiling like 250 participants, now today we have admitted 480 participants. As we discussed, when we discussed with Shankar, an idea came up, to bring both Andhra and Telangana education plans. That was happened on Sunday. Immediately, we have contacted distinguished vice chancellors of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana state. Today, they have joined with us. From Andhra Pradesh, there is a Dravidian University. Dravidian University is a inter-state university. Both all 3 or 4 Dravidian language states are part of it, and it's a big university situated in Kuppam. It is just on the borders of Tamil Nadu and as well as Karnataka. The Vice Chancellor of Kuppam University, Dravidian University, is Professor Tummala Ramakrishna. Tummala Ramakrishna Garu is joined and in this program. I request Tummala Ramakrishna Garu to speak, very briefly. Over to Tummala Ramakrishna. Professor Ramakrishna. Professor Ramakrishna.
Again, Malaysia
Meanwhile, another Vice Chancellor from Telangana State, Professor S. Mallesh. S. Mallesh is the Vice Chancellor of Satavahana University, situated, located in Karimnagar. Ramakrishna. Hello. Yeah, sir. Jainavad. Ramakrishna Garu, Jainavad. Ramakrishna Garu. Yeah, now it's okay, sir. I will Zoom lo maatladandi. Voice name.
Yes,
మీరు అన్మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి సార్. రామకృష్ణ గారు, ప్లీజ్ అన్మ్యూట్ యువర్ జూమ్ కనెక్షన్. రామకృష్ణ గారు, అన్మ్యూట్ ప్లీజ్. Yes, sir.
No.
No, you're audible, sir. Check it. Connect.
Audible, sir.
Yes, sir. Audible. Sir, unmute చేయండి.
Unmute చేస్తారు.
రామకృష్ణ గారు unmute చేసుకోండి సార్ ప్లీజ్. Professor Mallesh garu, are you ready, sir? Yes, please. మీరు మాట్లాడండి. I request Professor Mallesh to speak few words on this occasion.
Good afternoon to everyone. I am audible, Professor Chakravarti.
Yes, sir. You are audible. Please continue.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. I really appreciate Ambedkar Open University, particularly Director of CSTD, for initiating this needy program, particularly for the teachers who struggled a lot. We all experienced, we have seen practically the last 2 years how teacher both teaching and learning, faced a problem. So in that case, I said it's a timely, needy. For your initiative, I once again appreciate, and I thank you for making me a part of this. Chief guest of this function, Professor Sitaram Rao Garu, Vice Chancellor, Registrar BRAOU, other dignitaries, Professor Sudharani Garu, Director Audit, Academic, and many other distinguished guests, scholars, and participants. I only just share, looking into the past experience, the struggle in imparting the knowledge, problems faced by students and also teachers, not properly trained how to impart the knowledge, and students are also not able to use existing available tools in concentrating on learning process. So looking into all these kind of programs, nation initiated, and you have taken up this program. I once again thank you for this. And this, I would like to submit one point in this event. See, now we are slowly shifting, our concentration is shifting equally from teaching to learning. See, teaching, we have been adopted many models, national level, international level, to improve models, techniques in teaching. But learning now, we are shifting to learning through these kind of modes. We are how best a learner is learning. That is also becoming important. In the past, we all experience, teaching, how best we can improve teaching, effective quality and all that. Now we need to look into how best a learner is learning. So there are different methods and techniques. That is one I would like to submit on this occasion. And the second thing is, many models are available in this blended learning. And one teacher should be trained in how to impart through this model. And a learner also, a teacher knows many models. Looking at the situation of the learner, he adopts some methods, he uses technology, he uses tools. And in this case, how best he can impart the knowledge, how best learner is learning. He will concentrate with all these techniques, whatever you are, giving in the training program. I once again thank you for making this part of this. And also, I wish all the participants in this course, you will learn all the new techniques which you have to, implement in your teaching, not only in a regular teaching. I also request all the participants to adopt a method, adopt the issue that, I requested all the colleges in my area where each college is organizing one short term, 3 months or 6 months certificate course online. So after learning here, all the teachers, I request all the teachers or participants, go back to your college and offer 1 or 2 online courses for the benefit of the students. With this, I once again thank you, Director for CSTD, Professor Ganta Chakraparni, for making me part of this event. Thank you very much.
Yes, CSTD future also we are planning to design different programs for the teachers of different universities, teachers of universities of the state as well as Pradesh. And recently we have conducted All India training program for teachers who make lessons for Swayam. Now I request Tumal Ramakrishna, I hope this time you will connect to us.
Yeah.
Professor Ramakrishna.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
మొట్టమొదట 4 దశాబ్దాలుగా డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీతో సంబంధం కలిగి ఉన్నందుకు నా పాత మిత్రుడు డాక్టర్ గంటా చక్రపాణి ఈరోజు నిర్వహిస్తున్నటువంటి ఈ 2 వారాల శిక్షణ తరగతులకి ప్రారంభోత్సవానికి ఆహ్వానించినందుకు, ఇందులో భాగస్వాములైనటువంటి వైస్ ఛాన్సలర్ కె సీతారామారావు గారు, అట్లాగే ప్రొఫెసర్ మానస రంజన్ పాణిగ్రహి గారు, అలాగే ప్రొఫెసర్ మల్లేష్ వైస్ ఛాన్సలర్ గారు, అలాగే సుధారాణి గారు, అలాగే లక్ష్మీరెడ్డి గారు, మిత్రులు చక్రపాణి గారు, మీ అందరికీ కూడా ప్రత్యేకంగా మరోసారి ధన్యవాదాలు, నమస్కారాలు. చాలా మంచి ప్రోగ్రాం. ఎందుకంటే గత 2 ఏళ్లుగా మనం అందరము కూడా అటు కోవిడ్ అనండి, ఒమిక్రాన్ అనండి, ఇందులో నలిగిపోయినటువంటి వాళ్ళమే. పాఠ్యాంశాలు ఎలా బోధించాలని ఉన్నత తరగతుల్లో కానీ పాఠశాలలో కానీ అందరూ చాలా ఇబ్బందులు పడినటువంటి. ఎందుకంటే విద్య అనే మాటని మనం నిర్వచించడం కూడా కష్టం. కేవలం అక్షరాభ్యాసాన్ని మాత్రమే విద్య అని అంటామా, లేదా నైపుణ్యంతో కూడుకున్నటువంటి ఏ కళనైనా మనం విద్య అని అంటాం. అన్నప్పుడు ఎలాంటి విద్యను మనం బోధించాలి? ఒక జాతీయ విద్యా విధానం ఈ భారతదేశానికి, అలాగే అందులో భాగంగా ఉన్నటువంటి తెలంగాణ కానీ అటు ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్ కానీ మనం ఏ టూల్స్ను ఉపయోగించుకుంటే ఇప్పుడు ఈ పరిస్థితుల నుంచి మనం కొంచెం మెరుగుపడతామనే దానికి ఈ శిక్షణ తరగతులు ఎంతగానో ఉపయోగపడతాయి. ఎందుకంటే విద్య అనేది నిగూఢంగా మనిషిలో ఉన్నటువంటి సమస్త శక్తుల్ని వెలికి తీసి వాడిని సంపూర్ణ మానవుడిగా తీర్చిదిద్ది, అలాగే అటు వ్యక్తిగా ఇటు సమాజానికి అటు ప్రపంచానికి ఉపయోగపడే వ్యక్తిగా తీర్చిదిద్దడమే విద్య యొక్క ప్రధానమైనటువంటి ఉద్దేశం. ఈ శిక్షణ తరగతులన్నిటివి దాదాపుగా మనం చాలా మంచి ఉద్దేశంతో చక్రపాణి గారు మొదలుపెట్టారు. అందువల్ల ఇవి ఎంతో ఫలవంతం కావాలని నేను ఆశిస్తున్నాను. భారతదేశం అతి ప్రాచీన కాలం నుంచి మహామహులు మనకున్నారు. ఆర్యభట్టు మనకు వచ్చినటువంటి వ్యక్తి, వరాహమిశ్రుడు కానీ, సుశ్రుతుడు కానీ, చరకుడు కానీ, గార్గి కానీ, ఎవరిని తీసుకున్నా మనం మహావిద్యావేత్తలు, ఆదిశంకరులు ఇలాంటి వాళ్ళు ఎంతో మనకు ఉన్నారు. కానీ ఈరోజు ప్రపంచం మొత్తం ఎదుర్కొంటున్నటువంటి ఈ యొక్క సిచ్యువేషన్లో మనకు ఇప్పటికే చాలామంది యూట్యూబ్ని చాలా ఉపయోగించుకుంటున్నారు. మొత్తం ప్రపంచ జ్ఞానాన్ని అంతా యూట్యూబ్ ద్వారా మనం పొందుతున్నాం. అలాగే ఈరోజు ఆన్లైన్లో కూడా కొంచెం జాగ్రత్త తీసుకొని మనం ప్రోగ్రామ్ని డిజైన్ చేసుకొని ఈ శిక్షణ తరగతుల్ని మనం ఇచ్చినట్లయితే ఆ సుచితులైనటువంటి మాస్టర్లు లేదా ఉపన్యాసకులు వాళ్ళు మళ్ళీ అంతే ఒక శ్రద్ధతో ఒక లక్ష్యంతో దీన్ని కనుక నిర్వహించినట్లయితే ఇది ఎంతో మంచి ఫలితాలను ఇస్తాయి. అలాంటి కార్యక్రమానికి మనకు శ్రీకారం చుట్టినటువంటి వాళ్ళు, ఎందుకంటే విద్యతో పాటు సమస్త కళల పట్ల స్థూల అవగాహన ఉండాలి. కేవలం విద్య అంటే సిలబస్ మాత్రమే కాదు, సిలబస్తో పాటు ఒక పౌరుడు సమాజంలో జీవించడానికి తనకు అవసరమైనటువంటి అనేక రకాలైనటువంటి అంశాల పట్ల, ఒక సమాజం పట్ల, ఈ సమాజాన్ని నడిపించే చలన సూత్రాల పట్ల, సాంఘిక, ఆర్థిక, రాజకీయ, చారిత్రక, సాంస్కృతిక అంశాల పట్ల అట్లాగే మనకు ఉన్నటువంటి ఈ వైజ్ఞానిక సాంకేతిక శాస్త్ర విజ్ఞానాలని మరింత లోతుగా వెళ్ళి అధ్యయనాలు చేసి అక్కడింటి వాళ్ళని వాటి ఫలితాలని సమూహానికి మొత్తం మానవ ప్రపంచానికి ఉపయోగపడేటట్లు తయారు చేయాలి. ఇందుకు నడుం కట్టినటువంటి వ్యక్తుల్ని, ముఖ్యంగా మిత్రుడైనటువంటి గంటా చక్రపాణి గారిని, ఇందులో భాగస్వాములైనటువంటి ప్రతి ఒక్కరిని కూడా నేను మనసారా అభినందిస్తూ ఈ కార్యక్రమం చాలా నిర్విఘ్నంగా కొనసాగాలని కోరుకుంటూ సెలవు తీసుకుంటూ.
Thank you, Ramakrishna Garu. Thank you for your wonderful message. Yes, sir. Now, I request Professor Sudharani Garu. Professor Sudharani is Director of Academics at BRAOU-Live University. She is the Supreme Commander of all faculties and academicians in this university. I request you to give your brief message. Thank you.
Respected Vice Chancellor, Vice Chancellor of Kuppam University, and Vice Chancellor of Satwana University, Center, the Senior Program Officer, Management and the Director of CSTD, and rest of the and all the resource persons who are the training program today. At the outset, I congratulate CSTD for taking up a very useful and initiative for this blended learning workshop. And this is a much needed and need of the hour. We could see that. And they're taking up very useful programs for capacity building of our learners as well as our teachers first. So educating the educators, teaching the teachers about the blended latest learning method is very much needed. Blended learning is an education practice of combining digital learning tools with more traditional classroom face-to-face teaching. So in this blending of the new technology, I see with the classroom teaching as a method of it. It's an instruction methodology, a teaching and learning approach that combines face-to-face methods with computer-mediated activity to deliver instruction. The pedagogical approach means mixture of both the face-to-face and the ICT. So, national education policy, just now Manas was talking about, yesterday Cabinet has given a signal to launch the NEP. After 34 years of our education reforms, we are going to have the reform in the form of national education policy. And the policy is gave the glimpse in what we can achieve through the transformation of education. And new NEP clearly states the time the student-centric. So the learner-centric is a method which we are going to talk about it, and safely put down as an education of 4.0 to make the learners ready for industry. And time has again come to recognize the fact that student is the main stakeholder. Efforts must be taken to make the system respond to their dreams, to reach out their goals and aspirations. So in this line of thinking, new policy gives the acceptability of many models of learning, including the face-to-face, blended, distance, virtual. So this promotes vocational courses also, multidisciplinary course and multi-modal approaches, thereby focusing on blended teaching learning practices. The student-centric means availability of multiple entry to multiple exit, promotion of the regional languages and all. So this is going to be the useful program, and the blended learning is going. Happy CSTD has initiated the program with collaboration of Senka, and it's conducting capacity building and 450 participants logging in is a great achievement and of our training center. And the capacity building of ICT is both the methods they are going to learn, the participants, and the training team is also very efficient. Dr. Deepa, Dr. Rajshekhar, and Professor Srinivas and Professor Basiki. Professor Srinivas and Professor Basiki are with us, mentoring our online centers and as well as our EMRC also as advisor, advisory committee members. So the coordination team headed by Chakrapani and Shifan Chatterjee and Ravindra Salman. Once again, I congratulate them and hope for a very fruitful and useful 5-day deliberations and coming 5 days, you can utilize this course, making yourself the skill, upgrading your skills. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Sudhani Garu. Yeah, thank you for your continuous support to this video. Now I request, Vice Chancellor of our university, Professor K. Sitaram Rao. Actually, he is the visionary of new technologies to be implemented at his. Since he came back as a Vice Chancellor for the second time, he insisted, and he also always insists on us to adopt new technologies, particularly his favorite, topics always is blended learning and online learning systems. He started, online recently with his initiative. The university has started Center for Online Learning, and I am hopeful, definitely in coming days, this university is going to be a hub of blended learning modules, module production, and development. Professor Sitaram, I request you to kindly address all the participants and as well as other dignitaries provided in this inaugural session. Please.
Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, I am very much thankful to the audience for associating this program, and also congratulate and compliment the efforts being made by our CST and also SEMCA, in support of SEMCA. They are taking up many more programs like this. Earlier, we have also organized a training program, online training program for the teachers on developing online courses for this platform. And also, now as a second program, we have taken up this online capacity building program for teachers in higher education of both Telangana and Andhra Pradesh to learn the both concepts and methods of blended learning in this program. So, and the entire program is well designed. In 10 days, 20 hours, altogether 20 hours are the participants they have to spend to learn many more conceptual aspects and also skill related to blended learning, especially based on ICT. So that is the reason, and also the resource persons involved in this capacity building program are also very highly reputed and popular personalities, blended learning aspects, especially persons like Professor Srinivas, Professor Vasuki, Professor Rajshekhar, and Professor Deepa from Pune University. So all these resource persons are also will play a critical role in making the program success. And you know, the online blended learning, now it is order of the day. Now it is part of the teaching learning process of higher education. It is nothing but integrating effectively the technology, especially ICT, to our regular teaching programs to provide uninterrupted quality in teaching and learning. So this is the broad understanding. And one important dimension is also added by Professor Manas of Sarkar. They need to have this learner's perspective of blended learning, focusing on the learner's requirements, their problems in terms of joining their courses, retaining them, creating interest at university. That aspect we need to focus on. And also the our special guests from other universities, Professor Ramakrishna of Dravidian University, and also Professor Malesh from Chadawala University. Both these vice chancellors have also not only participated in this inaugural session, and they have spoken some very good encouraging words. And with these, with their support and continuous cooperation, definitely our CSTD will go forward, helping the teachers, faculty members in the higher education of both the states. And in future, our vision is to upgrade this CSTD to the level of HRD center for all open universities, and also to regular universities. It will be another HRD center or par with Usmania. Yes. So that is the reason. With that reason, we take up the programs and we go forward with the help and encouragement of various institutions like SEMCA, and also in future, we are expecting same support from you also. Professor Srinivas is a good friend of us and well-wisher of our institution, and definitely he will come forward to take up many such programs to give offline physical mode of training, especially in the blended learning. So this blended learning is most important to faculty members, so that slowly it will spread into the students also, learners also. First, we must get acquainted very well these blended learning concepts and skills in order to apply. The question is not mere theoretical understanding is sufficient. Here, for any program, blended learning approach will become a common thing. In this blended learning, which program should be given? To what extent this blended mode should be applied? So to what extent this is even our new national education policy also, it gives us two important points in this national education policy. One is 40% of the credits can be earned by the learners in any program, either mainly through online courses or e-learning courses. And at the same time, this national education policy also recognized and emphasized on the blended learning by recognizing multimedia and multimode methods of teaching and learning. So these are the 2 points are well explained, well emphasized in the national education policy. So keeping those aspects in view, and also the interests of the learners and their requirements, we have to evolve an institutional blended learning policy also. So that how best we can mix these multimedia and multi-mode into our various different kinds of programs. Whether it is the undergraduate program, UG program, or diploma program, whichever it is, there is a small one or a bigger one. Even in the research programs also, this blended mode can be creatively applied, and we can very creatively use modes and methods effectively to improve the and sustain the quality of our teaching and learning in our university. So, to start with, just now, we are slowly coming up. This lab is also newly built. Various limitations we are working, and we need so many accessories also in this. And I request the director to list out the accessories necessary to avoid the technical hindrances to carry forward the program in the future. I request you to again go for purchasing those minimum required accessories to this lab. So I once again thank the organizers, and also I wish the program will be a grand success, and it will take up many such programs in the future also, the supports of various apex bodies at the national level, and also with the our sister concerned universities. Thank you very much. Thanks for it all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your message. Sir, as you know, CSTD started as a humble institutional training unit way back in 1990. And now, obviously, it emerged as a pan-Indian level training unit training organization about regular as well as open universities in the country. Sir, just now you were referring about our SWAYAM online training program, where almost from 14 states, 4,000 teachers registered, and out of them, 2,600 successfully completed the program. So our presence is there everywhere in the country, sir, in all the states. And this time, we are doing this program for both the states. In future, definitely, with your support, definitely will grow and settle as a national level institution for training for teachers in new technologies. And of course, we are exploring possibilities of collaboration. SEMCA is a great supporter. And in fact, the last speaker, but definitely not least speaker, or not last speaker in all the way, is our regular and permanent spokesperson of our university, our registrar. In fact, the collaboration entered with SEMCA is by Dr. Lakshma Reddy Garu. Though he was in very tight schedules, he was in abroad for some time, and the pandemic situation. Even though he entered an MOU and spoke with them, and the man behind that entire the realization of this program is Dr. Lakshma Reddy Garu. I request Dr. Lakshma Reddy Garu to say a few words about this initiative as well as. Thank you.
Vice Chancellor, Dr. K. Sitaramagaru, distinguished guest, Mallesh, Vice Chancellor, Shadwana University, and another distinguished guest, Dr. Tumal Ramakrishna Garu, Vice Chancellor, BRAOU-Live University. Guest of honor, Professor Manas Ranjan Panigrahi, Senior Program Officer, SENCA. Director Academy, Professor Sudharani Garu, and also Professor Chakrapani, Director CSTD Garu. First, let me congratulate Professor Chakrapani Garu for successfully completing different online training programs. I'm happy to say that the online training program on MOOCs was a great success in terms of participation and also in terms of completion rate, not only at state level, but also at national level. Coming to the today's context, training program on blended learning has great relevance in the context of new education policy. The new education policy says that all universities should adopt all types of technologies for teaching learning purposes, starting from conventional classroom teaching to multimedia of ODL and to online teaching. In this context, that no single media is capable of delivering requirements for different types of programs and also different types of student clientele. To cater teaching learning requirements for different programs and diversified learner groups, appropriate media mix is to be evolved. Certainly, this training program on blended learning would certainly evolve appropriate media mix suitable for different types of programs and also for diversified student clientele. With these few words, I thank organizers for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your encouraging words. Now we are at the end of the program. I request my colleague. In fact, I should thank him for his constant support. Rabindranath Solomon is the coordinator of training programs at the University Center for Staff Training and Development. He is also in charge of vocational training center. Solomon, please propose formal vote of thanks. And after this vote of thanks and after this inaugural session, we have already the resource person is joined and is waiting. Today we have Professor Rajshekar Garu. He will explain us the concepts and the concepts of blended learning. Before that, Rabindranath Solomon will propose vote of thanks. Thank you. This.
Very well designed. Everything. The topics covered up. Exercise.
I deem it my honor and privilege to propose a formal vote of thanks to end the inaugural session of the University Training Program on online learning on blended learning, organized for the higher education teachers of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. The inaugural session was the guest of honor inaugural session was Professor Manas Ranjan Panigrahi. He has joined us online from Sanka University, and I profusely thank him for taking time out from his busy schedule and joining us in this online program. I also thank Professor Ramakrishna Garu, Vice Chancellor of BRAOU-Live University, who at a very short notice has accepted to be the guest of honor for this program. Professor Ramakrishna spoke about the importance of blended learning and how the pandemic has changed the course of teaching and learning. He was of the view that the CSTD is the fourth front runner in providing capacity building programs for the teachers of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. The next guest of honor was Professor Malesh from Chatavana University. Professor Malesh also spoke about the importance of blended learning, and he was very appreciative of the role played by the university in bringing all the teachers onto a single platform. I also thank our Vice Chancellor, Professor for providing all the necessary administrative and financial support in organizing the online training. As the director had mentioned, he is the vision behind all our missions. I thank you for being the guiding force for these training. I'm also thankful to our director at Elevate, Madam Sudharani, for gracing the occasion and speaking to the participants. Madam Sudharani talked about the new education policy, and the shift in focus in the new education policy was explained by Madam to all the participants. We also thank our beloved registrar, Dr. Lakshman Reddy Garu, for taking time out and coming and being with us for this capacity building workshop inauguration. Now, we will proceed into the first session of the workshop, and we have Professor B. Rajshekhar from the Civil University of Hyderabad waiting to address all the participants. Over to Professor B. Rajshekhar. Thank you.
Thank you.
వాడు అవసరమైతే అంతే.
Thank you. A very good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. Respected Vice Chancellor, Professor Sitaram Rao Garu, Manas Panigrahi from SEMCA, Professor Ganta Chakrapani Garu, the Professor Malesh Garu, Professor Tumala Ramakrishna Garu, Professor Sudharani Garu, and Ravindranath Salman, and my dear participants, colleagues from degree colleges and universities from both Telugu states. So today we will discuss about what is blended learning, because this program is meant for blended learning, but my job is today and tomorrow I have 2 sessions. In these 2 sessions, I'm going to discuss about the blended learning. What is blended learning? What are the advantages of blended learning? What are the principles
ఈ లాజిటిక్ వాళ్ళు
లాజిక్
Am I audible now? Am I audible? Okay. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So today we will discuss about blended learning, and we have two sessions with us today and tomorrow. So let us try to understand what is this blended learning. And in the introduction, you must have heard from various speakers about the objective of this program. What is the need for blended learning? So we have been in teaching for the past several years, and some of us are having 3 decades, some of you are having 2 decades, 1 decade. And we have been in the education system for the last several years, from our childhood to our post-graduation. So all these days we have been learning. All these days we have been teaching. All these days teaching learning practices are in place. What is that, this blended learning? What is the need for having this blended learning? And why should we understand this? And why should we implement it? What is the purpose of this blended learning? And how it is different from other kinds of learning? What is the need for blended learning? How it is different from our regular classroom learning? And especially the post-COVID or during COVID. See, maybe 2019-20, I think 1920, had we conducted this kind of a workshop, so most of you must have said that it is impossible to have these kind of blended learning in Indian context. Because I have been discussing about this blended learning and education technology and e-learning for the last 5-6 years at various training forums. But most of the time, the audience used it to say, "Sir, it won't work for India. It won't work for India." So that was the kind of a feedback we used to get. But today, the 2 years of our COVID experience, pandemic experience, so told us, yes, it is possible, but there are some limitations. There are some challenges. The challenges are mostly because of technology. Challenges are mostly because of mindset of the teachers, mindset of the students, mindset of the parents. And though there are some issues. So if I ask you, I think it may be difficult for you to respond. It may be difficult for you to respond. So just start chatting. So just I would like to ask you one simple question. In this 2 years of pandemic teaching experience, whatever online teaching we had, so what are the limitations you find? What are the challenges you found? What are the challenges you found? What are the limitations you found? Any one of you, 1, 2, 3. I am not expecting all 200 people to give responses. Yeah, somebody said network issues, internet issues, network issues. Then only 2. Both are more or less, both are same, internet and network. So lack of synchronization with the students. Okay, family. Not all students have access. Yeah, interest levels of the students lacking. So devices insufficient. Okay. So most of the classroom shifted to open source. Rural students disconnected. Attendance is poor. Insufficient knowledge about apps. Controlling kids while class. So when you are teaching, controlling the kids, education lost charm. Okay, education lost charm. Students find it difficult to follow online. Okay, good. So you have given me a lot of challenges, whatever you have faced, but most of them are related to technology. Either you are speaking about network, or you are speaking about the devices, or you are speaking about internet. This is one category of problems. The second category of the problems are access to the infrastructure by the poor students and the rural students. Although you have not mentioned the word socio-economically backward students, yes, socio-economically backwarded and rural students were having some issue. So this is something to do with technology again. But apart from technology, maybe their socio-economic conditions, the parental income and financial positions, and access to the technology, access to the kind of a technology. This is the second important challenge we have faced. The third important challenge is the participation of students, engaging the students, unable to see the students, not sure that whether students have been attending the class or not. So whether they are simply logging in and they are not there in front of the system, and each student understanding levels are different, and we are not sure that whether students have followed our classes or not. And the kind of a getting feedback through online classes is very difficult, and we may not be able to see the students' faces, and students were not asking several questions. The students take it easy attitude while they are in offline. Okay, so take it easy attitude. So students now are of the take it easy attitude, because last 2 years we have been giving them a lot of grades. those grades are very liberal. So earlier we used to have a normal distribution most of the time. So today we have more or less a uniform distribution. Everybody gets A grade because it's like an open book exam. Evaluation is one problem. Teaching is one problem. Learning is one problem. Interactions are another kind of a problem. Then the seriousness among the students is not there. The experiential teaching learning is missing. Maybe in online teaching. Experiential teaching and learning are missing. Okay. So, but as a whole, we have mostly, I think, you have mentioned very kind of negative feedback. Maybe our experiences are like that. But let me also look at some of the positive kind of feedbacks or benefits. The benefits of this online teaching. I'm only speaking in terms of your experience. Last 2 years experience, whatever you had, what are the benefits you had? Yeah, examination strictness is lacking. This is also a negative comment. Of course, negative feedback, not I'm saying negative. Yeah, one is multidisciplinary learning. Wherever we are, we can attend the class, able to reach global arena. Students can learn from any place. Okay, good. Students can learn from any place. What else? Students can learn from any place. Then, but teacher educators have benefited by learning online. Okay, good. Some students open up without any inhibitions. Okay, good. Earlier, when they are in the physical class, they have a lot of difficulty by looking at the teacher's face, and easy evaluation of internals because of online assessment. Then wide range of learning. Of course, teaching is not interesting is a negative feedback. So no need to move from here and there. You can work from home. So can use various tools of technology to teach lessons. We started re-engineering ourselves. Flexible learning. Very nice feedback. We are at any part of the world during online learning. So earlier we were very worried about, avoid traveling time. Yes, software professionals are permitted to work from home. Why not teachers? So more information can be given. Record sessions can be shared. So record sessions, I don't know, can record sessions and share. Yeah, convenience timings at any time 24/7. We would have taught, because the students are willing. The animations are supported. And we have given enough information. And while teaching the class, we used to log into the YouTube and we have shown some of the videos. As and when there is an issue, we used to go to internet, Google, and show them some kind of evidence. When we need to look for some resources, some e-books, e-content, e-learning, e-content also we have been given them. Then the teaching learning skills also updated. YouTube videos are helpful to the students. And we have used audio and video text. Audio, video, and text. And evaluation was made easy because mostly the evaluation, if it is a multiple choice questions, then Google use it to take care of evaluation. And it can reach students even at the geographically disadvantaged locations. Students also get used to assessing information online. YouTube lessons are very useful. So I think, I think that is where I wanted to have a feedback from all of you, because there is not many formal kind of studies have not conducted. Informally here and there, some universities have been kind of conducted some surveys, but there is no comprehensive survey. There is no comprehensive survey in both the Telugu states, how we have really faced the challenges. On the face of it, each one of us are saying that, this diluted our education system. This is one kind of a comment people are making. The second thing is, the students are habituated to copy from different sources while writing the examination. This is the second kind of a comment. The third kind of a comment is, we could only transfer the knowledge, but not the skill set. This is the third kind of a problem, especially the courses which are required some kind of a hands-on training. So that we could not provide to the students. That is another important thing. Then the teachers have missed the opportunity of looking at the body language of the students, facial expressions of the students. So whether, while you are in a physical class, we should be able to maintain eye contact. We can also perform. So as a teacher, we can also perform in the classroom. But unfortunately now in front of the system, so we have not really performed much. because in the same posture. Sometimes when we have a live classrooms, our voice modulations, but here we don't know voice modulations, how we are able to do that unless we see the faces of the students. The students also, from students' point of view, I think, most of the things in the positive side, we adopted the technology very fast, very quick and blended learning. Students are not serious about their attendance, okay? But the end of the session, they claim attendance, right? This is the students, they lost interest in attendance. See, for example, that is also a debatable issue, whether attendance is mandatory for the class. Because, we have different models in our own country. Institution like BITS Pilani, they never insist for attendance. Still, BITS Pilani is able to produce good students. But one kind of argument is BITS Pilani is able to get very few talented students across the country. So obviously, they are self-motivated. But universities like us, public institutions like us, higher education institutions like us, we are not getting all students are self-motivated. So if attendance is removed, what is going to happen to their future? Right. So most of the things now, what we have seen, we have discussed about from the teacher's perspective. Right. Health and psychological issues were also observed while online classes. Yes, all of us are teachers. So we are depressed because we were not going to offices. We are not going to universities. We are not going to classrooms. So there is not much difference between one day to other day, because every day is more or less looking like same, because every day we have been doing the more or less same job. Yes, I do agree all these issues. So there are positives, there are negatives. Yeah, I'm not changing any slides, madam. I'm only taking the feedback. So because this is also a challenge, how to engage the participants when we are teaching online. So to ensure the participation of participants, I'm using this technique. So I am allowing all of you to participate, because I may not be able to ask each one of you to speak. But this is also a technique how to engage students in online. And also, instead of straight away jumping to the topic, so I would like to get inputs from you based on your own experience. And I wanted to make it as experiential learning in online mode. So that is where, this is the strategy I'm following, because when we are going to discuss about blended learning, of course, I'm going to teach the concepts and philosophies of blended learning. But at the same time, we should also introduce some of the teaching styles which can be suitable for online teaching. So it's a continuous work. It arrests the time schedules. The teaching is not so satisfied. This is the one part of it. The second part of it is, I would like to know the perspective of the students. I don't know if any of us are able to see from the students' perspective, how students perceived these online classes of 2 years. So right now, whatever feedback you have given as a teacher. So as a teacher, always we are in our own comfort zone. So when our comfort zone is disturbed, obviously, we have some issues. That is one problem. Or some of us would like to be in a discomfort zone, but when we are given comfort, we are not very comfortable. Like you are willing to go and teach in the class morning to evening, but you are asked to teach from home. That is not a comfortable thing for me, at least personal level. For me, not going to a classroom, not meeting the students. I think, when we meet as a teacher, when we meet youngsters, we become young. We become young, at least, mentally. But unfortunately, that could not happen. But now my next question is, I would like to just have some perception from you, what students must have felt, or what is the perception of students? I think you must have been interacting with the students now in an offline mode. So what is that, the feedback, what you are getting? They said very boring and classroom environment is missing. The students themselves wanted offline classes because students also would like to have some fun. So for them, the college life, especially students who got admitted in a post-graduation program in 2020. So they are having only 2 to 3 months of offline experience. So definitely they must be missing. So this is very, very peculiar situation, whatever now we have faced, especially during post-pandemic and when we started offline classes. So all of us have been strangers. The classroom, students were strangers to us. We are strangers to them, because most of the time we were not opening our cameras because of I think, the network issues and bandwidth issues. We never did it. Then the students also, they were not having any opportunity to interact with each other. So all of us have become strangers. So definitely all of them are personally feeling, so they have missed this experiential learning. They have missed face-to-face teaching. They have missed the motivation by the teachers, a kind of emotional relationship and emotional bonding with their own friends and their own teachers. And they were not having access to physical library. They were not having access to computer lab. They were not having access to computer lab. And they were also not interacting to the teacher outside the classroom or even in the student hours. The next one is the Madhuri ma'am saying that, that students who are very silent in the classroom are sharing their ideas very liberally. So it gave them a kind of a confidence, especially when you ask a student in a face-to-face classroom to give a seminar or workshop, that fellow is really worried, not become nervous and not very confident. But when you ask them to give a same presentation through online, they were confident. So that improved their confidence. And the learning is passive. Yes, I know. This is all kind of, the fact we have, positive fact, negative fact, and students. Now let us ask, what are the advantages of offline teaching? I think all of us have been enjoying this offline teaching. So for limitations we have discussed in online teaching. So definitely more of them are very positive for, very positive for offline teaching. So when we go to the class and teach the class in offline mode, face the students, then physical activities we can have. Then also, then we can encourage, we can also understand, we can gaze the students kind of, the emotional levels, their understanding levels, their participation levels. And for example, the group discussion cannot be conducted online. So as a part of our MBA admissions process, we would like to conduct a group discussion, but we tried conducting online. We could not really conduct it well. So then somehow, we had a lot of difficulties. So the understanding levels of the students, yes, madam, Naushad Begum. So communication can be developed. Yes, communication can be developed. Their understanding and also saves time and money. Saves time and money. Then advanced learners are benefited and more scope for learning. So I think, I'm not going to discuss about the advantages of offline classes. Now let us get into disadvantages of offline classes in the physical classes. Disadvantages of physical classes. I think, in the physical classes, what kind of things were not possible? What kind of things are not possible in a physical class? Because all of us have been continuously, we were born and brought up, I can say, born and brought up in offline class environment. We studied there, we started teaching there, and we have been, I think, engaging them, and we will be even engaging the offline classes. The use of technology is a limitation in offline classes. Number one, use of technology. Yes, number one. Number two, infrastructure. Virtual learning. Infrastructure, virtual learning, use of technology. Okay. Then ICT enabled. So now at this point in time, different teaching aids cannot be implemented, which is so improved now. So the teaching aids are improved a lot. Now I can ask you one simple question. What is the difference between watching a movie in the theater and watching a movie in OTT platform? So when we watch the movie in a theater, or when we watch it online, OTT platform. So in what happens in theater, if you go late to the theater, you would be missing some part of the movie. Or after 1 hour, you lost interest in the movie and you wanted to see tomorrow, then you can't have that kind of a flexibility. But when when we have a OTT, then we have an advantage that whatever part you wanted to see 4 or 5 times, you can go, you can rewind, right? You can rewind, and at your own convenience, at your own pace, you can learn. So now, this is what is the kind of the cognitive skills of the student are found better only in virtual sessions. Okay, good. So this is a positive side of it. Captive audience in theater. Yes, this is also there. So that is the reason why I am not going to say online teaching is bad or offline teaching is good. offline teaching is good, online teaching is bad. So all of us now, based on this discussion, we are appreciating both the methods have got their own advantages and disadvantages. Do you agree? Both the methods have got their own advantages and their own disadvantages. Now, what we are suggesting is let us combine these two, then they can complement each other. That is what is blended learning. This is what is the kind of a background in which I would like to, that is what is hybrid. That is what is hybrid. That is what is blended learning. So, because, in most of our social science research, research scholars, we know. So we know the interested students are very attentive. In physical classes, time constraint. Yes, madam. So delivery of lecture is teacher control, right? So what we are now trying to say for social science research methodology, when we discuss about it, we have research designs. One is quantitative design, second one is qualitative design. So now each one of us know there are advantages and disadvantages of each method. Now today, the most widely used research design is a mixed method. Mixed method. So that mixed method, that means, we are combining both quantitative research design and qualitative research design. In the similar way, here also, we know the advantages and disadvantages of offline teaching. Some of the disadvantages of offline teaching can be handled better by online teaching. Some of the disadvantages of online teaching can be better handled by the offline teaching. So that is where we will combine online teaching. That is we are going to call it as a blended learning or hybrid learning. This is where I want to bring a few points. That is where I have structured my presentation to get some inputs from all of you, taking inputs from all of you based on your own experiences of online and offline. And we would like to combine these two. So hybrid model, yes, blended learning. So this is what we are going to look into that. Right. So what is learning? This is the next important question, because we have been saying that the what is learning? What is learning? So the dictionary meaning of is the acquisition of knowledge or skills through study, experience, or being taught. This is one definition. In online teaching, the teacher and the taught can conduct and attend classes according to their convenience sometimes. Yes, madam. So sometimes too much of convenience is also leading to problem. Too much of convenience is leading to problem. And also always we have a issue that I think in inaugural Professor Tummala Ramakrishna, I think Sujata, there are some lines from your system. It is appearing on the screen. Can you undo that? Yeah, these are the kind of challenges we have when we go for online teaching. So because the screen is not under the control of the teacher. The screen is not under the control of the teacher. Right. So according to their convenience, fine. So now when we say, Professor Ramakrishna was saying that, the education purpose is not simply learning something and writing the exams. That is beyond. So today, why our education system is unable to address most of the issues. So definitely this is because of, the kind of inputs what we give, they are not sufficient enough for them to lead their life. This is the problem. So just I have been a career counselor. I don't know how many of you are aware. I have been running a career counseling column in Eenadu Chaduvu page that comes on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday every week. So we have that's the most of the questions what I get from the students and parents, either calls or questions in the newspaper. Employability. Yeah, how do we engage students in blended learning? Yes, that I'm going to discuss about it. That is one important topic, the engaging. So right now, what I have been doing is I have been engaging you. I have been engaging you in a way. I have been engaging you, but there are some strategies of student engagement in a blended learning that we will discuss little later. So here, just today morning, I met one student who did his BA history, MA history, MA and now submitting his thesis PhD history, and he has NET and SET qualification. And now he was he came to me and said, sir, I'm unable to get a job which will pay me a 10,000 rupees kind of a salary. Can you help me? So just I was totally disturbed. I was totally disturbed just before your class. Just before your class, at around 2 o'clock, that student came to me and just he was explaining that, sir, I'm a first generation student and coming from socially, economically disadvantaged group. Now I've done my MA, MPhil, PhD, submitting thesis now, and I have got set qualification, but I'm unable to get a job which can pay me 10,000 rupees salary per month. So how do we address this? How do we address this? So this is the kind of a problem we have. So that is a broader problem. I am not getting into that, but whether our blended learning is going to address some of these issues, that is only our concern. That is only our concern. So the kind of a definition is, another definition is, a process that leads to change. The learning is a process. Learning is a process that leads to change, which occurs as a result of experience and increase the potential for improved performance and future learning. So at the end of the day, through learning, we are supposed to improve our performance. But now question is, are we able to improve our performance through learning? Or whether this learning, whatever we have, that is fulfilling the objective of improving the potential for improved performance and future learning. So simply what is happening today, we are teaching our students and they are learning the content, whatever we teach, and they are completing they're writing the exams, but we are not making them as independent learners. So this is the biggest challenge in our today's current education system. So most of the time, the students are dependent learners. They are not independent learners. So how do we make our students as independent learners, which they can do on their own, the future learning? So which as a result of experience and increases the potential for improved performance and future learning. The change in the learner may happen at the level of knowledge, attitude, or behavior. So it is not only knowledge, it is attitude or behavior. That is where nowadays, we are speaking about outcome-based education, OBE. There we are discussing about Bloom's taxonomy for evaluation, assessment purpose. So there we are not only discussing about knowledge, we are discussing about comprehension, we are discussing about analysis, we are discussing about applications, we are discussing about synthesis, we are discussing about evaluation. So KCAASE. I think there are several forms of Bloom's taxonomy. So this is learn how to learn. That is what is very, very important. But today, most of the time, what is happening is they are dependent on the teacher. Maybe partly up to some extent, this online education have made them to become self-learners. Up to some extent. I am not going to generalize because nothing cannot be generalized in our country because our country is so heterogeneous and we have so many variations in terms of socio-economical, cultural, emotional backgrounds of the students, and nothing can be generalized just like that. So I am only saying mostly, or in most of the cases, or some of the cases, we cannot generalize. In the learner may happen at the level of attitude, behavior. As of learning, learners concepts, ideas, the world differently. So are they able to see the world differently? This is the kind of a question. Learning is not something done to students. This is a very interesting statement, but rather something students themselves do. So whether learning is, we are doing learning to students, but we are only teaching to them. Rather something students themselves do. The students have to learn. Whether teacher is able to make the students to learn is the one question mark. Teacher is willing to teach, but whether students are willing to learn, number two. Number three, those trying to learn, are they getting enough insights from the teacher? Whether teacher is willing to teach the students, whether students are receptive. These are the challenges we have. There are 4 combinations we have. So here, it is the direct result of how students interpret and respond to their experiences. Yes, this is ultimately the learning is nothing but it is the direct result of how students interpret and respond to their experiences. So now you are enabling the students to differentiate what is what, number one. And also they need to interpret and respond to their experiences. So that is what it is. So here the learning is, if you look at learning is a quantitative increase in knowledge. This is, I think, from a research paper by Saljo, 1979, but still I thought, this is valid because learning is a quantitative increase in knowledge. Learning is the acquisition of information and knowing a lot, number one. Number two, learning as memorizing. Learning is storing information that can be reproduced. Learning as acquiring. Learning is acquiring facts, skills, and methods that can be retained and used as necessary. Learning as making sense of or abstracting meaning. Learning as making sense or abstracting meaning. Learning involves relating parts of the subject matter to each other and to the real world. Learning as interpreting and understanding reality in a different way. Learning involves comprehending the world by interpreting the knowledge. I think these 5 principles, I can say principles of learning, these 5 principles of learning, I think they are comprehensively addressing what is learning. So it speaks about learning as a quantitative increase in knowledge, of course, acquisition of information and knowing a lot. And learning as memorizing. Learning is storing information that can be reproduced. Learning as acquiring. Learning is acquiring facts, skills, and methods that can be retained and used as necessary. Learning as making a sense or abstracting meaning. Learning involves relating parts of the subject matter to each other and to the real world. Learning as interpreting and understanding reality in a different way. Learning involves comprehending the world by reinterpreting knowledge. I think I thought, these are very valid lifelong learning and critical thinking. Yes, lifelong learning and critical thinking. Nowadays, even we are speaking about life skills. We are speaking about life skills. We are speaking about logical thinking. We are speaking about rational thinking. We are speaking about rational thinking and logical thinking and problem solving. We are also discussing about problem solving. Problem solving, critical thinking, logical thinking, rational thinking, and also at the end of the day, the social responsibility. And we are also speaking about sustainability, sustainable learning practices. Sustainable learning practices. I think the paper was written in 1979. So the teacher should inspire the students to probe into the subject, learn by themselves. Yes. So the teacher should inspire the students to probe into the subject, learn by themselves. Right. So this is how the background at which we are going to discuss the particular topic. Okay. So look at these 2 pictures. Look at these 2 pictures. This is what we have been discussing so far. So one is online teaching. Second one is offline teaching. So online teaching and offline teaching. So you see the kind of a difference. So for example, take our own class. Right now, I have been discussing with you in a typical classroom situation. Whole class will have one board. Whole class will have one board, either blackboard or green board or white board. So today, all of you are having your own boards. Don't you think this is an advantage when compared to offline teaching? Offline teaching, all of us have been into single board. So tomorrow I'm supposed to start offline class. Today I have been teaching online. But my problem from tomorrow is my class strength is 125. So 125 students are there in the class. All 125 students are sitting in the same class. Of all, accommodate 125 is the challenge. The second thing is, all these days, what I have been doing is, my subject happens to be quantitative paper like statistics, operations, research. I need to solve a lot of problems on the tab, on the screen. So now, even whatever I write, they should be able to see from their own screen. But tomorrow, if I keep them to sit in a conference hall of 175 or 200 capacity and with all physical distances, a fellow who is sitting in last row may not be able to see my board. Whatever big board I have, it is extremely difficult for them to see. So now I am in a dilemma that tomorrow am I going to teach offline or online? My class starts at 10 o'clock. I have not made any decision. So now I think, we are now discussing about, instead of making the students to be offline every class, we are also looking at where it is not feasible due to some logistics and other constraints. You can freely have online classes as well, along with offline classes. So that is where our university took a decision. So there are size is a problem, physical distance is a problem. Then, under those circumstances, what we thought, the classroom strength up to 75 we can have on offline. Beyond 75 we can go for online. This is the decision of our own university. So, but still, for me, I wanted to enjoy the both because I wanted to have a physical class. see the students and emotionally connect to the students and give them a feeling of experiential learning. But at the same time, I don't want to miss the opportunity of this particular online teaching. So for which, what now I'm proposing to our students is, I'm going to ask all my students to bring their laptops to the classroom. Though it is offline class, I ask them to bring their laptops to the classroom. And we have made one classroom which is suitable for blended learning. So not only one screen, we have some 6 screens in the class, 6 televisions. I think in 6 screens we have 6 screens in a 6 LCD screens are available. So the student need not look at only at one board; they can see the boards at multiple places. And also their chairs also we have arranged in such a way that, that is like computer chairs. 360 degrees they can revolve. 360 degrees they can revolve. They need not look at only one kind of a screen which is there at the center, near the teacher. So they can have access to any kind of a screen. So this is one classic example of, if I combine these two in one classroom. So yes, according to the content which we are teaching, we need to choose whether it is online or offline, right, madam? So this is what I think, I would like to drive to this point. So they are not mutually exclusive. What I wanted to tell you. Online teaching and offline teaching are not mutually exclusive, or online teaching is one particular circle, offline teaching is one particular circle, and if you join them up to some extent, so there's an intersection part, the overlapping part is blended learning. So what is that we are going to do? I wanted to have exclusive online teaching, I will have exclusive offline teaching, I will have both together. So this is where we are going to rewrite our teaching learning practices for the future. This is the motivation. I think, we have this kind of a particular session on which we are going to discuss. So one is online learning, second one is classroom learning, offline learning. So online learning or e-learning is a method of learning education whereby students learn to acquisition of knowledge in a fully virtual environment through electronic technologies and media. Whereas classroom learning is a traditional mode of learning in which the learning environment is created within the physical walls of classroom, with both the teacher and students interact and actively participate face to face. Definitely, I can't deny the advantage of live classroom. Live classroom is a live classroom. Live classroom, there is no substitute. Live classroom. These things are going to complement. I only say that. The live classroom is a live classroom and there is no substitute for it. So though you may have a movie, but theater has got its own beauty. The live performance in the theater, live performance on a dais has got its own unique advantage and that cannot be replaced. So the classroom learning is a traditional mode of learning in which learning environment is within physical of classroom, with both the teacher and students interact and actively participate face to face. That means, but can I bring this kind of a experience left side, the right side experience to the left side experience to the right side? So this is our concern. Okay. So from here, I would like to take you to the blended learning. What is blended learning? Blended learning is an approach to education through combining two different learning environments: traditional place-based face-to-face classroom learning and online digital interactive e-learning platforms. So we are going to have a traditional place-based face-to-face classroom learning and online digital interactive e-learning platforms. E-learning platforms. The idea is that the students who are separated based on distance and time can benefit from doing part of their learning in a digital environment and part of it face-to-face. I think all of us have been experiencing. So because of OTT, we are able to see the movies from all languages of the world. But 2 years ago, very select few people were having access to this kind of an online content. This is one difference I can say. The second, recent past, I can say last 3, 4, 5 years, a lot of students from India, lot of teachers from India are enrolling for Coursera, edX, Udemy kind of courses. So this of a So I am sitting in Adilabad or Karimnagar or Srikakulam or Chittoor. I may be able to access Harvard classroom just because of e-learning, just because of online learning. So these are the kind of advantages we had. So the term blended learning is often interchangeably used with a term such as hybrid learning, as somebody was writing in the chat box. Technology mediated instruction, web enhanced instruction, and mixed mode instruction in the research literature. So hybrid learning, technology mediated instruction, web enhanced instruction, and mixed mode instruction in the research literature. See, this is not a new concept to the world. It may be a new concept to India, not the new concept to the world. So for the last several years, most of the Western countries have been practicing this blended learning. They have been practicing online learning, online teaching. But for our own country, so it's a new experience. So fortunately or unfortunately, this COVID pandemic has accelerated the pace of online teaching learning. So I do have my own reservations about the way the online classes are conducted. Online classes are conducted in the last 2 years. So when I say blended teaching, it is not just knowing what is blended teaching or blended learning, or what are the various kinds of principles and practices or rules of blended learning. But whatever we have in offline learning, the entire content to be discussed in blended learning. For example, the curriculum design. Whether online teaching and offline teaching should have the same curriculum design or they're different. Learning outcomes, the course outcomes, program outcomes, program educational outcomes, PEOs, COs, POs, whether they are going to be same for online education and offline education, or they are same for both, they are different for both. In the similar way, the pedagogy, how we are going to look into that, how are you going to design your pedagogy, whether it is same for both the things or different. So that is where, this itself is a subject to discuss now. So it is still, itself is a subject to discuss. So that is where there is a lot of literature available. There are a lot of research papers available, not from Indian context. Maybe from Indian context, I think now the papers start coming, because a set of students who are in their post-graduation and graduation, they had the experience of exclusive offline experience and exclusive online experience. So then, some of you can write a project for ICSSR, a project for UGC, or project for if your universities are funding, or even some of the research supervisors can make that as a research topic for their scholars' PhD thesis. So you can use that particular opportunity, and we need to also look into our own environment, our own system, how far the experiences of West differ from us. So we can also look at as a research opportunity. So we have seen what is online, what is offline, but it is like a blend. So you can see that here blended learning is a combination of all. So the same class will expose to everything. A teacher will teach on the screen, teacher will teach on the dais, teacher will use technology in the class, teacher will teach through technology, and uses technology in the class, and students also sometimes can interact from their own system to that class, whole class. So you may be sitting at different places within the same classroom, but all of you will be seen on the screen. And if you wanted to ask the question, you can ask the question through system also. You can ask, if you have a Wi-Fi system, and through mobile also you can chat. You can chat through mobile. You can also speak through mobile, and that is connected to microphone, and the whole class is able to listen to you. So what we are trying to understand is, having discussed the advantages of online, now we are going to club these two, and we have methods and modern methods, traditional methods and modern methods. So I think the collaborative classrooms, technology enhanced classrooms, collaborative classrooms, technology enhanced classrooms, and also learning through peers. If you look at that Swayam and e-learning modules, they speak about 4-quadrant approach. In four quadrant approach, the very one important thing is, there is a kind of an interaction among the peers. I think, they are going to interact among themselves. I think learning through peers, technology and learning provide an opportunity for us to learn through peers. Fine. So if you look at the evolution of blended learning, so from 1990s to early 2000s, computer and internet connectivity became part of everyday life for most. Even if you look at our Indian context also, business you could see the access to the people, that technology access to the people. Number two, during COVID, I think most of the people started using internet. Earlier, though they were not using internet, the different age group has entered officially. Earlier, it was unofficially they were entering into internet without permission of the parents, and always they used to have a fear. So today, the parents are encouraging the children to connect to the internet. But with that connection, what they are doing is a different story. So that means, it is a kind of a legitimized. So usage of technology and usage of internet through mobile phones. And mobile phones also, we use it to keep mobile phones away from the children, but now we are encouraging our children to hold mobile phones. So that the pandemic has totally reversed the way what we thought about technology 2 years ago and what we have been doing. And now, even now, it is extremely difficult even for the parents to separate children from the kind of mobile phones, smartphones. And smartphones, even they are not simple mobile phones, they are smartphones. So now we cannot anyway take away from the mobiles from the children. So now let us make, though we are going for offline classes, let us make our laptops and tabs and mobiles as part of our teaching learning process. That means we are going to redefine our teaching learning process post-pandemic scenario. We are going to redefine our teaching learning practices, for which these kind of workshops are going to be much more beneficial. You are going to have a lot of inputs you are going to receive. These inputs are going to make you more comfortable and more appreciative of what we are going to do that. Okay. So the blended learning is one such phenomena that has increasingly important role in education, especially when technology has a profound impact on how teaching and learning work. The blended learning is one such phenomena that has, somebody says my voice is cracking frequently. So let me change my service provider. This is also a learning experience, yeah. So let me change my service provider. So is it okay now? Is it okay? Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Is it clear now? The voice is clear now?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So now blended learning is one such phenomena that has increasingly important role in education, especially when technology has profound impact on how teaching and learning works. Largely because of the increasing accessibility of technology and ongoing interest in making use of digital learning technologies, blended learning has seen growth over time. Right. So most of the corporates have been using this blended learning for their training, because there are some resource persons who are staying in West and who are staying in other countries and who are staying in remote locations. So they have been using it. So they use it to conduct training physical mode. They are to use it to conduct training offline and online. And there are premier institutions like IIMs and IITs or XLRI Jamshedpur. So they use it to offer the executive programs in a blended mode. So some part of it is online and some part of it is offline. So they have some mandatory immersion for 15 days or 20 days on the campus, and remaining time is mostly online. So these practices are not very new. But now they are coming. Earlier they were like they were available for only elite group, but now it is coming to everybody. That is only the difference. Otherwise, this blended learning is not very new concept to India, because I know maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, BITS Pilani, XLRI Jamshedpur, and some of the IIMs, they started their executive management programs, executive MTech programs like BITS Pilani, executive MS programs through blended mode only. But now I think, they are going to be a kind of a mass customization. We are now speaking about blended learning as a mass customization. We are going to use this mass customization. That means, how do we reach the masses? This is the challenge. So a person who is teaching in Hyderabad, a St. Francis Hyderabad teacher, versus some lecturer in Nagar Karnool or Gadwal or Lakshadweep or maybe Kodad, Ramanapet. So even those teachers also should be equally equipped, because physically you may be there in a different location, but tomorrow when it comes to the job market, when it comes to the higher education competition, I think all of us are going to compete each other. So that should not become a kind of a limitation that, I have studied in a rural college where my teachers are not exposed to this kind of a advanced and sophisticated teaching learning methods. So that is the reason why this kind of a workshop is going to benefit all of you, whether you are in Hyderabad Central University or Shatavahana University, Karimnagar. Your capacities and capabilities should be same. This is what I mean to say. So even you are a Shatavahana student of the Shatavahana University, students of Telangana University, students of Ambedkar University, Srikakulam, Vikramasinghe University, Dravid University, all the students should have. This is the biggest complaint about our country, that, the resources are not uniformly accessible to everybody. This is the problem. This is the financial resources or infrastructural resources, but at least knowledge resources, let us bring in some kind of a socialism. So irrespective of the place where they belong to, irrespective of the social background they belong to, they should be having the equal opportunity to the knowledge, to the resources. That is the main idea. And that is where in that direction. Otherwise, the rural has been rural and urban has been urban. There is always a gap between rural and urban students and their technology utilization, their learning and so on. Because when I guide research scholars, the scholars coming from remote places and scholars coming from Hyderabad, I could see a generation difference between these two students. So that is where we need to, I think, introduce all these concepts even from undergraduation level, UG level. From UG level, to expose your students, I think, if there is a possibility, I think the national education policy is going to facilitate that. That is ABC, Academic Bank of Credits. And also there is a possibility for multiple entries and multiple exits. A student of first year from a remote degree college can come to Hyderabad and study second year. Or now we have a group of colleges, we can have access. For example, a student of East Godavari, some Ramachandrapuram students should be able to get access to the University of Hyderabad classroom. So this is where, we are now speaking about, democratization of the education. So we would like to create kind of environment. So, but only one kind of a caution is this blended learning should not create hierarchies. The whole idea of blended learning is, let's try to abolish those hierarchies and let us make the system uniform. But this technology should not become a bottleneck. Technology should not differentiate rich students from poor students and people who are having access, not having access. So that is one infrastructural requirement. We need to get into that. That is very, very important. But what we are trying to look into that is the students also are very much interested in technology. The current generation students also, they are well versed with technology when compared to teachers. The teachers of our age versus the students, definitely the students are having a better kind of a comfort and a convenience in using such technologies. Let us take advantage of that. Let us take the advantage of that. So what is the current status of blended learning? So this is the next important question. The next important question, as you know, the advent of COVID-19 pandemic has caused the delay of regular class opening while drastically affecting the face-to-face mode of instruction. Simply, I can say, when we were discussing about the advantage of online teaching, especially during pandemic time, it has saved the academic years of several crores of students in the country. So that itself is a major, otherwise, they would have delayed their education by 2 years. They would have delayed their education by 2 years. So at least, without losing any academic year, they were able to complete their courses. But again, if you ask me quality, yes, there is a problem. But even for offline teaching also, do you think there is a uniform quality? There is a quality assurance, there is a quality control, there is a quality management systems in place. Can you assure that in offline teaching, every student is equally learning? Every student is equally, I think, able to get the opportunities? No. Whether it is online or offline. So unless the students are involved in activity-based learning, learning can't be effective, right? So whether it is online or offline teaching, unless the students are involved in activity-based learning. So in commerce, people say activity-based costing. Now we are calling it as activity-based learning, ABL. Learning can't be effective. So that is where, my question is, why are we complaining too much about only online education? Even with offline education, we do have a lot of problems. See, in a given class, I think the NASCOM reports and other reports have come before pandemic. They say 96% of MBAs are not employable, 74% of BTechs are not employable. So these kind of statistics were there even for offline teaching. Not that, only online teaching has spoiled our education. Offline teaching also spoiled our education. Not that, only online is spoiling. So this online probably going to minimize that kind of, wastage, whatever now students whom we are getting the degrees. But there is also a danger that, 100% online education, there are some UGC is permitting 100% online education. So you can get degree through 100% online education. That's where the experimentally, or I can say the first mover in this direction is IIT Madras. They have started BSc Data Science. They have started BSc Data Science program. That is complete online program. Complete online program. Even BITS Pilani also, I think, planning to start. They have majority of their executive continuing education programs are online and some part of offline, but they're also planning to do that. So there are things, whether it is online or offline, the quality issues are bound to be there. But our idea is whether it is online or offline. So we need to ensure that there is a quality in our teaching and learning process. That is number one. Number two, are we empowering our students or not? Number two. Number three, are we able to make our students as independent learners or not? That is number three. Number four, some of our colleagues may have some reservations about it, but I can say, are we making our students employable? Are we making our students employable? Because when I make this kind of a statement, most of my colleagues say, no, universities are not meant for providing employment to the students. But I don't know. That was true maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So during those days, there was no competition from private partners, private universities. See, at least we used to have private colleges and private schools and private PGs and PG colleges. But now we have private universities. These private universities are distinctly different from public universities. Maybe because of their infrastructure, maybe because of their funding, maybe because of their students' affordability, the tuition fee, what they charge, or flexibility, what they have. And of course, IGNOU is also starting. Of course, IGNOU is there, and IGNOU has been using this online blended tools and techniques for the past several years. But now they are also planning to do. So IGNOU is one public university, I think, that is ahead of many universities in the country in adopting the technology. So, but even today, some universities and some colleges have kind of offline application form. That means, once you wanted to get into a particular college, you need to fill a physical application form. But gradually now we are replacing with online system. online counseling, web counseling. So these are a lot of advantages we have through technology, need not be through teaching. I'm saying support services. But what we are looking at is how we can empower our students through technology. Students are allowed to move at their own pace along with personalized education pathways. That's giving students more control over their own learning. So what is happening is that the short internships are required. Yes, the students require. That is what I think some of these concerns are going to be addressed in National Education Policy, NEP. But for me, my problem is NEP looks very nice, like, election or maybe political parties manifesto. All parties manifesto looks very nice. But when they come to the power, while executing, you find the gap between, what they have mentioned in the manifesto and what is being implemented. So now, yeah, so that I will, as technology have improved a lot during, young learners are easily accessing information from internet. How can a teacher choose some content before teaching, which is unaware of students? Yes. So this also I will address. This I will address under student engagement practice, but I can also spend some time on that. So what we are trying to look into that is, our regular teaching, is mostly a teacher control, but we are speaking about student control. That is one part of it. Then according to infographics, 73% of teachers who use blended learning reported increased engagement of students and improved their academic abilities. So this particular thing is improved a lot. I think, the technology, the students are having access to the information before the teacher is going to have the access to the information. So that means, what I mean to say, all these years, what we have done passive teaching. Passive teaching. What is passive teaching? The student is not aware that what you are going to teach tomorrow. Some of us have been telling the students that, yes, tomorrow I'm going to discuss so-and-so topic. But some teachers have given tomorrow's teaching material today itself. Tomorrow's teaching material today itself. Ask the students to come prepared for the class. Ask the students to come prepared for the class. And some teachers like me, I use it to give a session plan to the students in the beginning of the semester. The next 4 months, 60, 40 classes, 45 classes, I use it to give them the session plan on which day, which topic I'm going to teach, and what is the preparation they require before coming to the class. So this kind of information we use it to give. But today, what is happening? The student is preparing well in advance before they come to the class. So here, the teacher choose some content before teaching, which is unaware of students. That need not be. The same content you are aware and I am aware. So for example, the same blended learning, the same content and the same slides. These slides are, if I keep the slides are available to all of you, I don't think all of you are going to deliver the content in the same manner. Each one of you are having your own style of doing the things. In the similar way, when the student is going to access the content online or internet, their ability to interpret and their ability to understand is not very great, because you are a teacher, you are a doctorate, you have been teaching that course for the last 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. You have advantage of age, you have advantage of experience, you have advantage of multidisciplinary approach. You had a lot of rich life experiences. The way the student look at it first time, and that as a teacher, if you look at it, definitely your approach is going to be different from the students. So active learning is that form of learning wherein there is active involvement of the students in the concerned activities and discussions. So that means when the students are well aware of the content before coming to the class, let us change our classroom delivery from lecture mode to discussion mode. Why can't we have more discussions in the class? Why can't we have more discussions in the class? Why can't we go for case method of teaching rather than content-based teaching? Why IIMs are more popular? Especially IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore and Kolkata. These 3 IIMs are very popular. Why Harvard Business School is very popular? Because the professors of those institutions never go to the class and teach content from textbooks. They take the practical case studies. While discussing the case studies, they will introduce the concept. But what we do, we we discuss the kind of first we give the topic, then we give the example. But the model is, if you look at the premier institutions, they start with the example, then they bring to the theory. The theory is based on the discussion. So they try to introduce the concepts. They try to introduce the concepts with a story. They make a story, they make a case study. While discussing the case study, while discussing the story, they give a situation, it's like an open-ended situation, and ask the students to respond. Make the students to the group. This is what we are speaking about, experiential learning, activity-based learning. And you may allow your students to use maybe laptops in the class. Let them get access to the information, whatever they want. Whatever they want, let them get into that. There's nothing wrong in it. So that is where, once upon a time, some mathematics teachers never allowed students to use calculators in the class. So they use it to say multiplications you should do on your own. Divisions you should do on your own. Or maybe you should do square root on your own. But today, none of them are doing it. They are using technology. So when the technology is available, why do we waste our time on that? This is one kind of argument. The second kind of argument is, unless you know how to solve the things manually, how can you interpret the results of technology? Both has got its own advantages. Let us take the blend of it. Yes, we need to have the basics. At the same time, we should also use technology to enhance our understanding. So here, when the students are having access to the technology, I think that is much more challenging to the teacher. That is where I said, we have been partly or partially passive, but let us now become very active. Let us become very active and let us be ahead of our student. I think, you are not a teacher. You are also one of the learners of the class. You are an advanced learner. I can say you are not a teacher. You are an advanced learner of the class. So you have the resources, they have the resources, and all of us are having equal resources. But fortunately, when you have some case studies, for those case studies, the teaching note is available to the teacher only. It is not available to the student. Teacher is a facilitator. Teacher is an instructor. Teacher is a collaborator. Teacher is a controller. Teacher is a leader. So teacher is a motivator. Teacher is a knowledge enhancer. So I can give you several kinds of definitions of a teacher. Teacher is an enabler. Teacher is an enabler. So teacher is the one who make the students to realize their potential. That is what I think ultimately at the end of the day we are going to discuss in the class. There is no need of dominance of a teacher in the class. What should dominate the class is knowledge, not the teacher, not the students. We are all of us are learning. So there is no dominance approach in the class. So you are an advanced learner of the class and you are ahead of them because of your age and experience. But sometimes even today, all of us are having experience. We learn from the students. So that's where you are also empowering the students to use the technology. You are also empowering the students to access to the information. And you should not obstruct. You should not prevent the students from asking some advanced questions from the class. Though you don't know, just because of that, you should not discourage the students from asking the more interesting questions. I think, these are all the strategies, the new strategies we are supposed to learn when we go for the blended learning, because the students are having the enough exposure, sometimes a better exposure than us. So here, if you look at this, that is what I was telling you. The online learning is one circle. Face-to-face learning is another circle. The blended learning is a kind of an interface of intersection of these two. So the advantages of face-to-face learning are here. Advantages of online learning are here. Disadvantages of online learning addressed by offline learning. Offline learning disadvantages or face-to-face disadvantages are having advantages here. So that is where it is a kind of a complementary approach. They are not competing each other. Remember, face-to-face and online, they are going to coexist. They are going to coexist. So the role of a teacher is going to be much more challenging under blended learning environment. In a blended learning environment, because in a given classroom also some students are habituated for offline teaching. Some students are, I think, they are habituated for online teaching. So you need to balance these two groups in the class. That is where the role of the teacher is going to be much more challenging. I think you may have to develop your own MOOCs. You may have to develop your own MOOCs and use that MOOCs in the class. And you, instead of instead of using somebody's MOOCs, you develop your own MOOCs and play that video in the class. You sit along with the students And as and when students are having issues, you stop the video and start discussing. Or you ask your students to make some MOOCs, some videos, some presentations. Instead of making a presentation, they are going to physical presentation, their video to be played, and as and when there's an issue, the student will go and try to do that. So that is where we are not going to leave any opportunity of this learning. So at the end of the day, we need to make our students independent learners. We need to empower our students to be very confident, to be able to resolve the problems and so on. So in this context, the blended learning is very, very important. The concepts of the blended learning is every student is different. This is very, very important. All of us know that, and has a different pace of learning. This I think we have ignored. All these days, what we have ignored is the students are having different pace of learning. So that means one student may need one class, some student may need 4 classes. But how are we addressing those extra 3 classes? When we engage the students in a given classroom situation, how do we address that particular thing? In the earlier situation, what we used to do is we used to just teach once and we expect everybody to follow. If the student has a difficulty, so there used to be some remedial classes. So that remedial classes also, we know they are not very seriously conducted or even not seriously attended by the students, because the name itself of remedial is not making students comfortable. But what I mean to say, the students are having different pace of learning. Some might require additional support to understand well, but one teacher may not be able to be available to the student 24/7. Sometimes a student at midnight, 12 o'clock, that fellow has a problem, but teacher may not be available for the student to resolve. But that video of the teacher, the class of that particular teacher is available in the net or intranet or internet. So then the student is able to access that information and resolve. Because at one point in time, they're struck, unless that point is resolved, they cannot move further. So they can go back to the video, they can go back to the class, and they can learn from there. So some might require additional support to understand well. When technology used in education, overall learning experience is enhanced and learning becomes more effective. So blended learning engage all types of learners. So what is engage? So here, the engage, the word, especially in a classroom situation. So it can be made as an acronym. So E for energy, N for noise level, G for grasps attention, A for active participation, G for gains new knowledge, and again E for enriching activities. So again, I am repeating: E for energy, N for noise level, G for grasps attention, A for active participation, G for gains new knowledge, E for enriching activities. So this is what we are going to do. The blended learning engages all types of activity. That means new energy, managing the noise levels, grasps the attention, active participation, gain new knowledge, and enriching the activities. So those who learn better in structured environment, that includes face-to-face interaction with an instructor, and those who perform well in independent environment comprising of semi-autonomous computer-based training. So today we have kind of a driving schools. So one driving is a driver sits next to you and trains you. The other kind of a driving is you sit in that kind of a driving school and you sit in front of the computer, a simulated environment, and you are going to learn. These are the two kinds of situations we have. One learns on the road and one learns only on the screen in a simulated environment. After some time, the fellow who learned in a simulated environment, that fellow will come to the road and practice for some time before they actually get the license. So this is where this kind of a blended learning is. This is what it is. The driving school, when you go to the driving school, there are two kinds of driving approaches. Or sometimes if that software is available, you can sit in front of your own desktop at home, or maybe with kind of a structured approach, whatever we have, you can also feel and experience. But definitely, unless you go to the road, you will not become an independent driver. Unless you go to the swimming pool, you cannot become an independent swimmer. That is where I am not neglecting offline. For that matter, I am a great fan of offline teaching. But at the same time, I have quickly adapted to online teaching also, because I have also realized some of the problems of offline teaching can be resolved and solved through online teaching. So learning for anyone can now take place with greater flexibility and convenience. Learning for anyone can now take place with greater flexibility and convenience through careful, thoughtful blending and with consideration for technological skill levels and internet access. So learning for everyone can now take place with greater flexibility and convenience. So what is that online education is going to do us? It gives us greater flexibility and convenience. So two important things of online education is greater flexibility and convenience through careful, thoughtful blending. That is very important. So through careful and thoughtful blending and with the consideration for technological skill levels and internet access. So this is going to make our blended learning is going to be a great kind of a learning. So with this, I'll stop here for today, because the organizers have asked me to deliver lectures from 3 to 5. So at 5:30, I have committed for another lecture at NIT Warangal. That is again online lecture at 5:30. So now it is 5:16. So I'll stop here, and tomorrow from 3 to 5, solid 2 hours time we have, and even I don't mind extending up to 5:30. So we can discuss more about the principles, concepts, models, and as somebody was asking, how do we engage, or what are the various issues in blended learning? How do we manage blended learning, and by fulfilling the main objective of active learning and empowering our students. So with this, I'll stop here for today. If you have any quick 1 or 2 observations, I think you can write in the chat box. If I'm able to, based on today's content, whatever we have discussed, I don't mind giving you some insights. Otherwise, we will discuss. Of course, our class has been more interactive, though it is online class. So you have very actively participated in the class, and I was also trying to look forward some of your inputs. So I'll stop here, and tomorrow I think we'll meet at 3 p.m. tomorrow, and we'll continue the class from here, and we'll also get into more and more insights. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Rajshekhar, for that very interactive session. You have truly made this session a blended learning experience, because you have been interacting with all the participants right from the beginning of the session, and then each and every participant also was interacting with you, and they cleared their doubts. Thank you for truly making this blended. And I hope all the participants have had a great learning experience with this particular session. So see you all tomorrow at 3 p.m. Sharp. We are going to have the same resource person, Professor Rajshekhar from Hyderabad Central University, who is going to talk to us about the other aspects of blended learning. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. See you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.